I got some technical difficulties.
No worries. Can you hear me?
I can.
Awesome. Well, give me 1 second to just get you spotlighted for everyone. And we will go right into questions for you. We'll start off with Bob Puckris. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, Justin, good morning. I'm curious if you look back at the finish from Vegas and how you guys as teammates try to figure out who to work with, especially when there's multiple ones of you up there.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the situation at the end of the race, we were in a box. We restarted fourth on that last restart. And when Daniel chose the outside, I mean, really at that point, the only option was to take the bottom behind Ty. The options were either go to third or fall all the way back to sixth. And I felt like at that point, part of what is bothered me all week kind of about that statement is the statements and comments that that I've seen on social media is that, at one point we were the leader and got put three wide and, ended up being in the position that we were in kind of because of restarts and how tricky they were. So for me at that point, as the fastest lap of the race and the guy that led the most laps, my only goal was to try to see if those guys could get racing each other and try to put myself in a position to win. Obviously, no ill intent to try to hurt Noah from winning the race. It was just the box we were kind of put in and still felt like we had a car that was capable of winning the race. So I'm not really sure what we could have done any different in that point.
And from the kind of the outside looking in, for those of us on the outside, we see Noah and Daniel work together. And we kind of wonder, are they teammates? Are they not teammates since they both raced together at Colleague? And I'm curious, do you guys have any of those discussions internally? And is there any, I don't know whether somebody should have allegiances depending on the race or whatever, but do you have any of sort of those discussions?
Well, I mean, I think, at the end of the day, you have four cars at our shop that are equally capable of winning races week in and week out. So it does become a fine balance, right? Obviously we do what we can to help our teammates, or at least try to, throughout the course of the race. If you look at the restart right before that, we restarted on the outside behind Noah, was able to push Noah. And ultimately, if Daniel hadn't almost crashed and slid up in front of us, we would have probably restarted third or even second at that point. And the 54 ended up going by both of us. So, I think that those were the allegiances were there, that just the opportunities weren't at the final restart of the race. And I think that, as drivers and as teams, our shop, one of the things that we're very adamant on is we got to push each other and help each other. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to trying to win a race, you got to go out there and if you feel like you have a shot at winning the race, you got to do everything you can to try to win it. And that's only what's fair to, our teams, our sponsors, everybody that's a part of it. And so, I felt like at the end of the race there, we still had a shot at trying to win. And not that I didn't want to see the 9 win, I was hoping that he would win. But at that point, my best option was to push to 54, just to even, not even just to try to get the win, but to even, limit the damage of how far back we fell in that last restart. And unfortunately, obviously it was the difference maker for him. He was able to get by Noah. So I hate that. It's just the circumstances we're kind of put in nowadays with the choose lane. And, I think in Daniel's mind, his first instinct was if he chose the bottom behind Ty, even if that was the better lane, he knew that Noah and I would be pushing and potentially have the momentum to be able to pass both of them. So, I think it's just the circumstances we were put in.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Zach Sterniello. Go ahead, Zach.
Hey, Justin. So what's the dynamics been like with your teammates so far? You've got 3 full-time teammates this year, and 3 of the 4 cars are within the top 5 in points right now. So things seem to be going well, but obviously there have been some disagreements the last couple of weeks as well. So what has the dynamic been like within JRM?
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting. I think you said 3 of the 4 are in the top 5, and honestly, as good as we've run week in and week out, there's no reason all 4 of us shouldn't be in the top 5. Just bad luck, bad timing. Last week I think Sam got caught up in something that wasn't even remotely his doing. But at one point at California, we were all 4 in the top 5. At one point in Vegas, I think we might have even been all 4 in the top 5. I've been the the weak link early on in these races. We've not qualified well and had to try to make our way through. And the other three have been up front, battling the whole time. And I think that it's a hard dynamic, right? When you have four cars that are equally as fast. I mean, you look at really any of the teams in our sport, whether that's Cup, Truck, or Xfinity. Very rarely do you have all four cars or all the cars in one organization that are equally capable of running up front and battling for wins. And I think, managing it's been a challenge because obviously we all want to win for our teams and for our sponsors and for everybody. But managing that, I think, is a really tough situation, especially, knowing that we could easily have four cars in that top four when it comes down to getting later into the year when we go back to Phoenix. So, I think it's going to be a lot of fun this year. But I think at the other aspect of it, we're building great race cars at Junior Motorsports. Obviously, the Hendrick Engine department is firing on all 8 cylinders, literally and figuratively. And we're putting ourselves in good position. So how we manage that's going to be really important.
You mentioned you kind of see yourself as the weak link so far, but you're heading into one of your best racetracks at Phoenix. All the loop data suggests that this should be a good weekend for you just based on your past. How do you prepare for this weekend, and what kind of emphasis are you putting on this weekend as far as what the rest of the season could be?
Honestly, I don't think we prepare any differently. Obviously it's been working pretty good. I need to qualify better. We've had some challenges with that quick turnaround and what adjustments to make. I don't know why we've just, been off a little bit and it, California, I think we would have been really good setup wise. I just chose to go to the bottom thinking that it was going to be the right choice and just didn't get a good lap. So all that being said, Phoenix is kind of the I don't know. It's kind of the one place that everybody feels at home, whether that's, Jason Burdett, my crew chief, or any of our guys on our team, myself, spotter Eddie DeHaan. We've all got a great comfortability whenever it comes to going to Phoenix. And, I think we had the opportunity to go there and to run good. It's obviously changed a lot since they originally put down the PJ1. Now we have the VP resin. It's going to be interesting to see kind of what it races like. But, I think as a team and as an organization, that's been a great racetrack for us, and especially our 7 teams. So we're going to go there. We're going to give it the same effort we've been giving it all year. I know we'll have a fast race car, and just managing the day, making sure that we don't do anything crazy. Don't put ourselves in any bad positions. I think we got a great shot at going there and at least battling for a win. And there's a good chance we're going to battle 3 other teammates for a win.
Thank you.
Yep.
Next, we'll go to Marty Sikla. Go ahead, Marty.
Thanks, Sam. Excuse me. Hey, Justin, thanks for the time, man. So just following up on Zach's question, you said this place feels like home to you. What is it that you like about Phoenix?
I wish I could tell you. I wish that there was the one thing I could put my finger on that I said, oh, this is exactly what I look for in a racetrack. But I think, with the 2 ends being not symmetrical, right? You're really having to focus on, okay, what's going to be the best over the course of a whole lap, right? I don't feel like if you're really good in 1 and 2, you're going to be really good in 3 and 4, and vice versa. You're always finding that fine line of what's the optimum balance for both ends. That's obviously changed a little bit because of the PJ1 and then now the resin, but I still feel like a lot of the same characteristics, a lot of the same challenges arise. You're going to be hard on brakes, no question. Making sure that your car really drives good on corner entry, I think that's a big deal. And I would say I'm a little bit more comfortable with the car maybe not being completely 100% underneath of me on corner entry, whereas some guys really want that feel of the car really being stuck on corner entry. I'm kind of the opposite. I feel like if the car kind of floats on corner entry, I'm okay with that. So that's one of the things you kind of fight at Phoenix regularly. Other than that, I think it's just a slick, worn out racetrack that provides good racing. And for me, that's just something that I have a lot of fun with and been lucky enough to have some success there and to run up front. So, hopefully we can go do that again.
I know it's really early in the season, of course, 3 races in, and you're taking it 1 race at a time. But do you think in this race it could determine where, should the winner make the championship, or they could be a huge threat to win it all? We saw it with Cindric last year, and we know what happened in the end and finished second.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think the spring race is usually a lot different than the fall race, right? We've had a whole season to kind of work on our programs, make our programs better, make our cars better. I do think that, you can gain some really good notes from this weekend and put yourself in good position if you're in position at the end of the year for a Final Four championship. You know, last year was interesting for us because I felt like we were really good in the spring. Missed it just a little bit, but really good in the spring. And, you know, obviously did a good job all the way through the year and then got to the playoffs and kind of missed out on going to that Final Four at Phoenix last year. But then ran really well at Phoenix. You know, we were up front. I got a restart violation that was pretty disappointing after taking the lead. But, you know, I think that had we been in the Final Four, I don't know that it would have been a violation, to be honest with you. But we weren't in the Final Four, and we were meddling where we didn't belong. So I think we'll learn from that and go to this year and hopefully carry some of that same momentum and put ourselves in that Final Four and, you know, learn from the notes that we have for the spring race.
Thanks for the time, Justin. Good luck to you this weekend.
Thank you.
Next question will come from Dustin Long. Go ahead, Dustin.
Thank you. Hey, Justin, I know you've driven the Wheel Force car
Yep.
a number of times, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm curious to kind of get your perspective of what you've seen out of this car and the challenges that the drivers are facing so far this early in the season.
Well, first and foremost, you know, from when I first drove the Gen 7 or next gen, whatever you want to call it, Wheel Force car, to where I've driven it most recently last week in Atlanta, it's leaps and bounds different from what it was that first time, right? It just seems like the program has really evolved. And obviously, if you know, watching these races so far in 2022, you know, it's been great racing. And to debut a new car like that, I mean, obviously there's challenges, right? Whether that's parts challenges, which, you know, are not just kind of stuck to our industry, that's nation and worldwide. You know, the challenges of learning a new car, you know, with the independent rear suspension, I would say that's something that's really changed the process of how you not only set the car, but how you drive it. You know, we saw some crashes at California, and I think some of those were a result of just not knowing what the limits are with this new car. You know, this car is really easy to bottom out on the rub blocks, which, you know, the hard part of all of this is this car is trying to take a step back from, you know, where we had gotten to. It's hard to put technology back into a box and really, you know, unlearn the things that we all know. So we all know that lower and more horsepower and all the details, that the aerodynamics, all that, we all know that that's all better. So with this car, it's taken a step back and we've had to kind of reevaluate, okay, what makes the most sense from a setup standpoint? Makes the most sense from an aero standpoint within the confines of what this configuration is? And I think that it's caught some people off guard, but I also think that it's been interesting for me because I think guys and gals have done a better job of getting their cars closer than I really thought we would this early in the season. So I'm excited for, you know, June, July, August, when I feel like we all have a better handle on what's going on how to make these cars go the fastest they can, and, you know, see what the racing's like. Because right now it's fantastic. You know, one of the keys of the Wheel Force car that's interesting is it's not about going fast. It's about collecting data, you know, not only for the teams and for Chevrolet, but for Goodyear as well and NASCAR. You know, understanding what the challenges are going to be with the new 18-inch tire, with the bigger brakes, you know, with the loads that we're seeing, you know, in the middle of the corner, how much pressure there is on the tires, things like that. So, you know, I think for me, it's been a great opportunity. You know, obviously super proud that, you know, Chevrolet's trusted me with that car to go drive it. It's not a cheap car by any means with all the sensors that it has on it, but, you know, we've learned a lot and we've really been interesting to see kind of the development over time of this next gen car and seeing what it's turned into.
And you mentioned Atlanta. Obviously, I think everybody's interested to see what that's going to be like. You know, what's kind of the impressions? We've heard a little bit from people who did the tire test in January, but what did you see? What did you experience last?
Yeah, so I actually got to do the tire test in January with the Xfinity Series car, and then obviously turned right around and did it again with the Wheel Force car. What I can tell you is the packages between the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series are completely different. I was really surprised the difference in speed and kind of how the cars drove. I would say the Cup car is obviously a lot faster and more on the limit of grip versus what the Xfinity Series car was at the test. So that will be interesting to see kind of how that all plays out. But, I felt like, my only concern with any of this is, the fastest lane is right around the bottom. And between tire testing, having 3 cars, and then wheel force testing, having only 3 cars, we've kind of all been stuck to the bottom and really haven't traveled off that bottom lane. And so I'll be interested to see, the goal is to be more of a super speedway-esque style racing. So I'm interested to see kind of as we get there, who's the first ones to kind of jump up, especially with our limited amounts of practice, who's the ones that kind of jump up to the middle or the top, and how well are we going to be able to race 2 and 3 wide? We know that the racetrack is there to do it. We know that the configuration of the cars is there to do it, but we've kind of all been stuck right around that bottom lane. So, how do we rubber that racetrack in, and how do we get to where we can, draft and race, side by side? I think is going to be the key. So, that's going to be a lot on the teams, a lot on the drivers, but a lot on the track too. They've been diligently working. We saw at the wheel force test, they had already come in and made some changes to the racetrack from when we ran there in the tire test, just to make things more smooth and a little bit better. So, they're definitely working on it to try to make sure that it's the best experience possible, not only for the drivers and the race teams, but for the fans alike. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
And one last thing on Atlanta in that sense is, you mentioned running at the bottom. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you guys are kind of running different lanes than maybe what traditionally had run at Atlanta. And I'm curious about, I think, did they kind of have to change a little bit with the walls or stuff because of the potential of angles? Obviously, if you're going at speeds and you're at the bottom, something happens. Boy, that's a lot of room to travel to hit a wall and cause some problems. What were some of the learnings in that sense?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was the front straightaway. They made an adjustment to the front straightaway wall from the tire test to the wheel force test that was absolutely fantastic. They were really concerned about it when we got back there, wanting to know what we thought about it, and immediately, I thought they did a really, really good job. I mean, that wasn't easy to move the wall the way they did it, and they were able to do that. So, I think that was a great choice for them. I think it's going to be interesting. I know there's been talk about a double yellow line rule versus not. With the Cup Series car, I didn't feel like that was going to be in play. I felt like the cars were fast enough and kind of on the edge of grip enough that, using other lanes we're more of a traditional line with the Gen 7 car than what we were with the Xfinity Series car. With the Xfinity Series car was a lot like Daytona Talladega, right around the bottom, even down the back straightaway and down the front straightaway, as small of a radius as you could get. The Cup Series car didn't seem to be quite that way. It seemed to want to run like that normal line. So, I think the change on the front straightaway is really good. I think the car having the speed that it's got is going to make it, it's going to make it more of more traditional than what I think that they were maybe anticipating originally. But, I'll be interested to see kind of what we get to when you get, the difference between, 30 some, 40 some cars versus, 3 cars is pretty massive, especially with the configuration that we're currently in. So, I'll be interested to see what that looks like. But, I think when you look at the course of the weekend between the Trucks, Xfinity, and the Cup Series, I think you're going to see 3 different types of racing over the course of the weekend. So I'll be very, very excited to kind of watch the other 2 and see where that puts us.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it, Justin.
Yep.
Go back to Bob Pockris.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on those. Do you think it'll race like Daytona and Talladega, or is it going to race like California, or is it, you just don't know? I assume simulator should tell you something.
Honestly, the simulator doesn't really even say either. I think that this one's going to be very circumstantial. Who's got what setups. And I think some of it's going to come down to, do teams really try to go full Daytona Talladega and trim their cars way out and do all the things we do at Daytona Talladega? I think there's a lot of thought that that's going to be the right way to do it. And truth be told, I think when we get there, I think having the most downforce, the most grip you can have is going to be super important. The tire doesn't seem to fall off a lot. so the speeds stay up kind of the whole time, and you've got some grip to be able to maneuver around if you wanted to go to the middle or the top. So, I don't foresee there being any issues. It's just whether or not the drivers and the teams are comfortable with being 2 and 3 wide. I think on the Xfinity Series side, no question, I think it's going to be a lot like a super speedway race. You're going to be in a pack. You're going to be drafting. If you're not, you're going to be, considerably slower. And so I'm interested to see on the Cup Series side, is their car a little more stable than what I drove, setup wise? What are they going to do? There's a lot of variables that could play into it. So, I think our race will be very super speedway style. Theirs, I don't know. It could go a lot of different directions, to be honest with you. And I'm not sure that even if it doesn't go more of like a California style, that I think it's going to be a great race regardless. It's just seeing what that looks like, kind of right off the bat. It's going to be a challenge.
And we talk, I haven't heard about double yellow line, yay or nay, but what about choose? Have you heard that at all? And would you like to have choose or not there?
I have not heard about choose. I think it's going to be important, when the race rolls around. So, I would have to imagine that they're going to stick with the super speedway style of where there is no choose. But on the other front, Atlanta's a mile and a half, and I know everything's circumstantial, and you can make adjustments to the rules as you go. But I feel like based on the configuration of it, I think it should be probably choose. But it's up to them, and I think that they're in the same boat we are. There's a lot of unknowns. When this track reconfiguration started, I think we all thought it was going to be one direction and one way, and as we've gotten on track and we've seen what it's like, it's opened up kind of a whole bunch of different avenues. It's not exactly what we thought, but it's not what we normally have. It's very, very unique and very different. And I think that there's just a lot of folks going, okay, what can we do to make sure that it's a good race? If you don't put a double yellow line, I think that there's going to be a lot of folks on the apron, on the front straightaway. But in all reality, is that a bad thing? We look at California, guys were down on the flat. We look at this last weekend of Vegas, guys were all the way against the grass on the inside on the apron. So, I don't know that it's a bad thing if you don't put a yellow line in. So I think it's just going to be interesting to see how the racers handle it, how the teams handle it, how NASCAR handles it. I think there's just a lot of questions, a lot of unknowns that I think all of us are kind of wanting to answer when we get there.
All right. Thank you. Hopefully we get the answers before you get there.
I don't see that happening, Bob, unfortunately.
Thank you.
All right, Justin, that looks to be all the questions we have for you this morning. Thank you for spending some time with us, and good luck this weekend in Phoenix.
Yep. Thank you guys all. Appreciate it.